so that it will be available for other parents to view later. And then introduce Heather Marshall, the co-chair for our Community Advisory Committee.
Thank you so much, Jeanette, for that introduction. And thank you everyone for joining us this evening. As Jeanette Anderson said, I'm Heather Marshall, and I am the subcommittee chair for our events on the Community Advisory Committee board. And I am also co-chair in our community for special education. Our theme for our events this year is embracing education one day at a time, because we are embracing the present day to day, both in our daily lives and in our children's lives or students' education. We have a lot of new faces tonight, so I'd like to kind of go over what the CAC does and what our mission is. The Community Advisory Committee promotes and encourages positive connections among students, parents, and PUSD by providing guidance in special education so all students become successful lifelong learners. The CAC is advisory body to the Special Education Local Plan, also called SELPA, to promote effective special education programs and services. The CAC also, as members, we help advise the district on the development, including the following. We review the local plan and provide ongoing input on special education services. We recommend annual priorities to be addressed in the local plan and encourage community involvement. It's very important. Provide parent education and support activities on behalf of individuals with exceptional needs, and assist in the development of parent awareness and the importance of regular school attendance. The PUSD CAC meetings are currently held via Zoom. However, when circumstances are different, they are held at the PUSD conference room, and unfortunately, till further notice, they will be held via Zoom. We're hopeful that they can be in person towards the end of the year. The CAC is a voice at the table to make a difference in special education programs and services, and we'd love for all of you to come to our monthly meetings to either volunteer or just come join and see what we're about. I'd first like to thank all of our CAC members for being a part of all the greatness that we have done and achieved now and in the past. Our CAC chair, Heather Plotsky, our secretary, Tristy Grates, our subcommittee chairs, Alexandra Sparks, David Choi, Rosabelle Avgayani, Kate Whelan, Jill Coley, and our CAC member, Nita Jaha. I'd also like to thank our school district staff for all of their dedication and support to the CAC. Greg Mizell, Jeanette Anderson, Danielle Strauss, Tiffany King, Jody Payne, Deborah Williford, Michelle O'Connor-Ratcliffe, and Heather Schauder. Many thanks and gratitude to all of you for all of the support you give us. So our first presentation tonight will be on a parent's guide to IEP meetings, as you can see on the flyer, before, during, and after, which will be presented by Tiffany King, our Director of Special Education. So Ms. Tiffany King, you will have the room in just a moment. But before I get to you, CAC members will be monitoring the chat for any and all questions during the presentation for a Q&A at the end of the presentation. Okay, Ms. Tiffany, you have the room.
Thank you. David, am I able to share my screen?
Let me make you a co-host.
Okay.
You should be able to do it now.
All right. All right, hi everybody. Thanks for joining us tonight. I'm really excited to share some important information and answer some common questions around IEP meetings, district staff, and hopefully provide some clarification for all of you and other parents who will be able to view this presentation later. For those of you who I have not had the pleasure to meet, my name is Tiffany King, as Heather mentioned. I'm one of 4 directors of special education. I specifically support our middle and high school sites, as well as our low incidence programs. which include visually impaired, deaf, hard of hearing, and orthopedic impairments. I started in the district 22 years ago. I was 7 as an instructional assistant while I went to college and obtained my teaching credential. I then started teaching at Westview High School for 10 years and served as their special education department chair. And in 2012, I became a program specialist for 6 years. And I have supported almost every site, elementary and secondary, in the district. So really excited about all the work that has been done over the years. In my current role as a director, one passion that not only I have, but I know that my fellow directors and program specialists share is to establish a positive relationship with families, provide as many tools as we can to assist you all with the journey you're on, while also providing supports and services to your children so they can become as independent as possible and achieve all of their goals. I also teach for the county in the teacher effectiveness program, as well as in the credential program at Azusa Pacific University. And I try to instill this same mindset in all of my students. We can learn from textbooks and we can memorize laws and we can write one heck of an IEP, but it's really the relationships with families and our students that will ensure that the whole package is a success. All right. So I encourage all of you to also meet the rest of our team. I told you a little bit about myself. We have great little biographies available on our district website. If you haven't had the pleasure of meeting the other directors as well as the program specialists for your site, I would encourage you to go on to the special education portion of the Poway Unified website and click on Meet the Directors and Meet the Program Specialists. And there's cool little biographies as well as a list of all of the sites that everyone supports. We really do have an amazing team and they're all dedicated. We are all dedicated and committed to the collaboration and positive relationships with all of you. One thing that we do have in common is attendance at IEP meetings. And we're really striving to make the IEP process a positive experience and create strength-based IEPs rather than deficit-based IEPs. As parents, it's difficult for us to sit in a room with educational professionals or anyone for that matter and hear for an hour or two about what our kids cannot do. So it's important to consider creating individualized programs based on student strength and preference while still addressing areas of need, of course. We don't want any parent to have the feeling explained on this slide, but rather look at an IEP meeting as an opportunity to collaborate with individuals and come up with a plan for progress. So we are going to talk a little bit about questions that have come up to CAC members and parents that have been shared with me about what can be done prior to an IEP meeting. What should I expect? What can I do to help prepare as a parent? What is going to happen during the IEP meeting? And what is going to happen after the meeting? What can I expect to happen once all is said and done? So we're going to go over a few questions that have been asked. And as Heather mentioned, there is the chat enabled. If you have questions along the way, please feel free to put those questions in the chat, and we will be sure to either answer them tonight or follow up with a document and answers after tonight. So the first question is, who is going to be at my child's IEP meeting? And there's a few answers to that. So there are some legally required members at IEP meetings, and then there's other members that along the way will be joining the team as needed. So of course, first and foremost, the parents and family would be at the meeting, ideally. So mom, dad, guardians, and then the student, if appropriate. As much as possible, we love to have our students at the IEP meetings. And then of course, when they turn 18, they are required to be at the meeting. Then the special education teacher or the case manager. So the person really in charge of maintaining the IEP document and the case management duties that is required, a general education teacher, and then an administrator. Sometimes that's a site administrator. In fact, the majority of times it will be a site administrator. And then oftentimes there are needs for a program specialist or district administrator to be in attendance as well. And then related service providers. So if your student receives speech, occupational therapy, PT, any APE, there's lots, VI, DHH, lots of related services. Anyone that is providing services to the student would be invited as well. And then if it is a year where we are conducting evaluations or assessments, the evaluator would be there as well. A common question we get is what will we review first, and why do we go over certain forms in a certain order? And this visual really helps paint the picture of the method to that the agenda throughout the meeting. So if we really dig down deep, we have assessments that really tell us the details of our students' ability levels, and those assessments give us some great baselines. And so those help determine the eligibility piece, which is to the left of all of this. And then we have goals. And so we start with the progress on those goals that were developed at the last meeting. And the progress on those goals really give us baselines and determine present levels of performance for our students. And those present levels are outlined on what's called the present levels of performance page. And those present levels lead to baselines and goals for areas of need. And so we start that cycle of proposing goals and perhaps benchmarks if your student is in one of our mod severe programs, where we can track throughout the year certain benchmarks for goal progress. And then that leads to the proposed goals and individualized transition plan. If your student is 16 or above, they will have those 2 extra pages incorporated into their IEP that outline just little goals that we can help address as they work towards their post-secondary goals. So whatever it is they want to do after graduation or aging out of our transition program. And that leads to the special factors, which outlines any assistive technology, any low incidence supports, any behavioral goals or accommodations, or perhaps a behavior intervention plan is needed in addition to the goals, in addition to the accommodations that would be needed to make progress on the goals that were agreed upon earlier in the meeting. And then we review state testing, and all of those pieces together. All of that really important information leads to the discussion about placement and services needed for the student to make progress on the goals. So oftentimes we might get asked, well, can we just jump right to placement? Can we just talk about services right off the bat? And this is why really we can't. So there is a need to talk about all the pieces leading up to a program development for our students. And then looking at that, the team can then have a meaningful discussion about a placement and all the services that are needed for that student to make progress. Can I request that a program specialist attend the meeting? Absolutely. So the idea is that our students belong to their school sites, and we want the site administrators to get to know their students and be as involved as possible. That's not to say that a program specialist couldn't be involved as well. Typically, our program specialists are involved in meetings for our involved special day classes, just because there's more involved in those IEPs. And then also potentially meetings where there are questions or services above and beyond where we need really that expertise involved. So that's not to say that a program specialist is only involved in adversarial or potentially contentious meetings. They absolutely are well versed in all of our programs and specialized services and are a wealth of knowledge. So they absolutely can be involved and requested. We would just also want to involve the site administration as well. Can I share my questions and concerns prior to the meeting? Absolutely. We would actually encourage this. And that is because it leads to a more meaningful and productive conversation. If we come to the table knowing beforehand what your concerns and questions are, we can help address those throughout the meeting and also plan accordingly. And perhaps we have the same questions and concerns, and it will help us plan. So your case manager might actually ask you prior to the meeting. We actually encourage it. What are your questions? What are your goals? What are your concerns? What would you like us to address for the next year, so that we can come with a draft that encompasses all of that right from the beginning? Can I get paperwork prior to the meeting? So yeah, the answer is yes, if it is ready. So typically we like to have our assessors and our evaluators have reports ready so that they can be shared. We all know those are multi-page documents, and it's a lot to take in. So as much as we can provide the family in advance, the better. It gives you time to read through reports, to process information, and come up with those questions and potential concerns that we talked about in the slide before. So assessment reports, progress towards goals, present levels, and proposed goals are documents that could be provided before the meeting if they are ready. Things like services and placement, those are really meant to be a team discussion so that the team can take in all of this good information from the assessments, from progress on goals, from present levels and proposed goals to come up with a placement. We want to avoid what's called predetermination, where we come to the table with what we think is a good placement and service options. And that really should be a whole team discussion where everybody has input and is involved in that decision. So there are some pages such as our FAPE services page, our FAPE Ed setting page, where those would not typically be provided prior to the meeting. Are there parents I can connect with who have children with the same disability or disabilities as my child? Absolutely. And I know Jody and Deb will hopefully talk about this a little bit when they get into their presentation, but I know they have a fantastic plan to offer this very thing. And that is to have some of our parent ambassadors have areas of expertise or areas where they may know and have been through the system and have their own children who have access to resources in the district and outside of the district that they can share with you depending on the disability. So I know that is in the works and I'm excited to see where that goes. Will the district be upset if I bring an advocate to the meeting? Absolutely not. We encourage collaboration and that opportunity, and we would provide a release of information, and that gives us the ability to communicate with the advocate. Many times, our program specialists and advocates are communicating and working potential issues out behind the scenes or working together for an upcoming IEP. Heather Schauder and I just met with one of our advocates today. We're in constant communication and collaboration. And that doesn't just go for advocates, it really goes for any guests. You may have a neighbor or a friend that has had a child with an IEP go through the district and you want to potentially bring them to the meeting. Absolutely, and there's a portion on the meeting notice when you receive it to mention who you may bring to the meeting or who you plan to bring to the meeting. So no, we would not be upset if you bring an advocate, and definitely welcome the collaboration. All right, so we're going to move to during the meeting, and these are some questions that came up. Do I have a right to have a statement from myself and or my child added to the IEP? Absolutely. We can certainly attach a statement if that's what it is to the IEP. One thing we would want to do is obviously read that statement. And if there are concerns or anything that we can help address during the meeting, we would want to address those. We wouldn't just want to collect it, attach it, and be done with it. So we definitely want to hear concerns. We want to hear statements and then kind of close that door, so to speak. If we open a door with a concern, we want to make sure sure we address it and have a plan moving forward. So we can absolutely attach it, and then there would be the follow-up piece as well. What do all of these acronyms mean? A question we get often. So for those of us that have been doing this a while, it's just second nature to throw out acronyms. And my personal advice is feel free to ask us to clarify, or what was that you just said, a new acronym I've never heard before. Absolutely, we will not be offended. And there are great websites, one of our own too, that provide help with this. So there's 2 links on this slide that provide a great resource for acronyms. And then on our POWA Unified website, we also have a PUSD acronym list, and we will constantly be adding to it if new acronyms come into the special education world. So lots and lots of acronyms, and sometimes we forget that not everybody has the background in special education that we do. So we welcome the possibility to pause and spell it all out. What if I don't agree with the school staff members? What can I do? And I really love this quote on the left. It's okay to disagree. And that's how great stuff happens, right? So we do have disagreements, and it would be silly of any of us to say that we go through this with, you know, everything's unicorns and cotton candy. It's not, and there are disagreements. We're talking about our children, and as a parent, I definitely have had disagreements with some of my own children's teachers and those working with my kids. And that's okay. And we work through it. And so I would say have a discussion with the team, listen to each other. And that's a huge piece. We get real passionate about our own children, and the professionals involved get passionate about their expertise. And it's coming to the table and welcoming each other's perspective and really listening to each other, and considering all of the recommendations. We don't all always know best, right? So we have to consider everyone's viewpoint, lay all the options on the table and have a discussion, and try to come up with a plan. And of course, that all sounds great too, right? But what happens when that doesn't work out? And that's why there's policies and procedures in place to help with that. So we do have a system of support. It's on our website, and I know Jody has touched on this before. You'll see this colorful arrow diagram across the top. You know, always start with your teacher or case manager, that individual that works with your student or sees your student every day and really is in charge of overseeing the IEP. Then the site staff, assistant principal, and then the program specialist, and then Deb, our parent liaison or our ambassadors at each site. And then please always feel free to come reach out to one of the 4 directors, and we will gladly meet and try to resolve any issues at our level. So that is definitely a lot of individuals you can go to for support. And I think one thing I would really hone in on is really using your program specialists as a source of support and information. I think that oftentimes we view our program specialists as those we go to only if we're having issues or need help with an IEP meeting. They are some of the most brilliant and just a wide eclectic variety of expertise that you will come across. And I think each of them has their own little toolbox of strengths and has so much to offer. So any question, absolutely reach out, and they can, if they cannot answer it, they will absolutely come to one of us, and we can definitely help out. All right, the report is long and I didn't understand it at all. And I need to review it before, or I didn't understand it all. I need to review it before asking questions. When can we meet again? We can meet anytime. So legally, we have 30 days to meet once we have a request for a meeting or need to reschedule a meeting. Obviously, in some cases, it's not ideal to wait all 30 days. And if possible, we will schedule it sooner. But this is absolutely a situation that I think not many know about. So you don't have to do everything at once. We have families that one meeting, we review assessments, and then we schedule a part 2 to talk about progress on goals. And then we schedule a part 3 to talk about present levels and new goals. And it's just that time in between to process and come up with new ideas, questions, concerns that some need, and that's okay. So this is definitely something that we can accommodate and try to schedule meetings as often as possible if that extra time is needed. Will you implement an outside report recommendations? What if my report conflicts with the district's report and we don't agree? Again, it's okay to disagree. We absolutely will consider any outside report and recommendations. And oftentimes there's new information that comes from those reports, and that's great to know, for us to know as well. It may lead to further assessments on our end. So if a new suspected area of disability comes out of that report that maybe we haven't looked at before, or a new diagnosis, or maybe a doctor's recommendations, or there's now medication involved. Those are areas where we may come to the table and request or recommend further assessments, or maybe to get a nurse involved. And all of that will come to building a better program for your student. And so absolutely, if you have outside reports and recommendations, we absolutely will welcome that. We will, again, just like the slide about advocates, we will likely have a request of information for you, a release of information for you to fill out so that we can communicate with that outside assessor or doctor or provider so that we can all collaborate together to build a program. If my child is having trouble at school after this process, who should they reach out to? So I would, again, refer back to that diagram where we're first checking in with the teacher or case manager, then the site administration. If it's a concern with potentially accommodations or goals needing to be tweaked, then the IEP team would want to come back together and talk about that and maybe revise or edit a couple things. And then, of course, program specialists, directors, definitely. But we want to nip that early and get the plan edited so that we can now go back to the classroom and hopefully provide a more positive experience for the child. All right, so now we're after the IEP meeting. Signing attendance of the meeting and signing approval for the IEP offer FAPE are not the same, correct? Right, you got it. So there are 2 lines to sign on the signature page. One is in attendance and one is in agreement or disagreement with the IEP. So some of our families that want to take time to read and process the information that was provided, they might sign in attendance for their IEP meeting and take a few days to process, ask questions, and get the information they need, and then provide consent to the IEP. Or the team might need to come back together to discuss some concerns that maybe the parent thought about after the meeting and address those concerns, and then the parent may sign the IEP. So yes, you can definitely sign in attendance if you need a little extra time before consenting. Do I have to sign the IEP at the meeting? Same deal there. So it's okay to take time. So please do not feel pressured. Whoever's at the meeting as the administrator designee will likely ask for a specific timeline. So do you think we could have your questions, concerns, or consent, a week from today, just so we don't have an IEP out there with or without consent kind of hanging. We do have certain aspects of our IEPs that we have to report to the state, and we want to provide the most accurate data possible. And so we just ask that it's done in a timely manner. And if there are questions and concerns after that week, let's say, we want to come back to the table and make sure that we address those concerns and answer any clarifying questions that you may have. Is there someone I can talk to if I don't feel comfortable with my team? Absolutely. I would, obviously it could be the case manager that you're not comfortable with. So going to the case manager might not be your first stop. So again, I would just take you through that, the arrows on the top. And if you aren't comfortable with the assistant principal or principal, maybe they weren't involved in the meeting, then program specialists, one of us, or Deb and the ambassadors are available as well. But absolutely, sometimes that happens and personalities clash, and we again want to resolve and fix that as quickly as possible, and hopefully bring the team back together in a more collaborative manner. At the beginning of new quarters, trimesters, or semesters, is it recommended that parents send teachers copies of IEPs and 504s? It's actually required of us as the district staff to be providing information to teachers of our students with the pertinent information of IEPs. So some sites will upload what's called an IEP at a glance, or a student profile with accommodations, goals, information about the student's disability that the teacher will need to know in order to implement the IEP in the classroom. That may be in our student information system, that might be provided via a paper copy. Different sites do this differently. So it's nothing that you need to provide the teachers as the parent. Each site has a system for this and will take care of letting teachers know of students with IEPs or 504s in their classes. All right, so Rosabelle, I have your 3 slides here if you want to unmute, and then just let me know when you want me to click to the next slide.
Thank you, Tiffany. I'm just going to probably summarize a lot of the things that Tiffany had said. My name is Rosabelle Agbayani. I am a parent at Poway Unified School District. I have 2 kids that are both in the special education program, and I am also a CAC member. And I wanted to talk about parent-professional collaboration. I work with Hands and Voices. Hands and Voices is an organization that's dedicated to supporting families of children who are deaf and hard of hearing. And we work with families statewide. And one of our outreach activities includes parent and professional collaboration, which we believe is the foundation and the heart of helping children, is that genuine parent to parent professional relationship. So I just wanted to go over some tips with you guys. Like I said, it's probably summarizing a lot of the things that Tiffany said and reinforcing, the importance of your role as a parent. So this can be across the board, from parent to professional. So be accepting the values of other opinions. I know Tiffany had talked about everybody has a seat at the table, and everybody has a rightful seat at the table, especially the parent. So everybody is going to come with their own background and knowledge, but don't let that be, something that intimidates you. You are the specialist of your child. So that is really important to understand. Be accountable, follow through with your obligations. There's a lot of things going on in terms of paperwork that's back and forth. Parents are filling out forms and assessments. Make sure you follow through on that, and as well, professionals. I'm sure that they have a lot going on too. So be respectful. Be assertive. As a parent, you know your child best. So if you hear something or hear something that you may think that is a personality thing, I know that something came up in a conversation with one of my son's teachers just recently. He was having some challenges in math, and his case manager said, hey, can I take him out in the period after his class and work with him? And when I was talking to my son, he goes, Mom, that's like my favorite class. And so I made that suggestion to his his case manager, I said, he's willing to work, but I think that it's a better idea if, maybe you take him out, or we can have him come in after school or before class. And he said, that's a great suggestion, because that was something that my son shared with me. Be calm. I know that's hard to say because it's very emotional. It's a very emotional process. And depending where you are in your journey, you're going to get stronger and you're going to become more confident. But anger doesn't get you anywhere. So Tiffany had talked about maybe bringing someone that you trust. Sometimes it's your partner, your husband. Sometimes it's a friend that just can kind of give you that calm. I suggest, or find a way to find your calm before a meeting or after a meeting, to be as professional as you can. So that comes to the next point, which is be courteous. You will be remembered for your professionalism and your respect. So keep that in mind. Be factual, stick to the facts, be flexible, look for creative ideas and solutions. Next slide, please. Be giving. Some of us have resources that maybe some of the educators or team members are not aware of. So be willing to share those resources and information with professionals that your child works with. Be honest, don't manipulate, and always tell the truth. Be informed, do your homework, and know the facts about your child. Tiffany had talked about, if you have any questions before an IEP meeting, maybe schedule shoot an email to one of the professionals and say, hey, I have some questions. I need to know more information, so that when you do come to the table, it's a much more productive conversation that's very pertinent, and also that, everybody kind of understands, like, okay, I understand where this specialist is focusing on and this specialist. And so you can yourself come up with valuable contributions to the team. Be inquisitive, ask a lot of questions. There's no stupid question. Everybody is at different stages of this process, and even the most seasoned parent has something to learn. So be inquisitive, be observant, read body language, and know how to direct your questions. Maybe it needs to go to someone, or maybe you need to kind of step back because you don't know, but be aware of your presence and the presence of others. Share with the professionals, be open. Share with the professionals your family values and the family dynamics. Maybe there's something going on in your home that is challenging for your child when they come to school. If you're comfortable with sharing that, I welcome you to share that. Some of our values are tied to cultures. We're talking about, diverse populations, and maybe in some cultures, we don't understand something, or maybe the educational system's a little bit different from where they come from. If you're an immigrant family, I know I came from an immigrant family, and, working through systems is often challenging. Share that your understanding or lack of understanding. Be positive. Share with a team that you believe there will be a positive outcome. What is that saying? Positive outcomes always yield positive, or positive thoughts yield positive outcomes. So try to stay positive. Be prepared. Have a parent report, even if it's just writing down what are your goals, just so you can stay on point for yourself. Share that with your team if you're comfortable. Be professional. Act, don't react as you would during a business meeting. Be prompt, respect everyone's time, be respectful, listen to their concerns, opinions, and advice. And you may not agree, but it's actually, it's a learning process for everyone. Be supportive, find ways to collaborate and support each other's work. It's a team effort. I always say, if there's something going on at school that I can reinforce at home, please let me know what I can do, or vice versa. If there's something at home that the teacher may benefit from knowing, communicate that. Be thankful. We're in November, so we need to be grateful. Be grateful that our kids are in this district where teachers care about these kids, our kids, and that we can trust them. Be grateful that, that we have a system in place. Be wise. The goal is cohesive and supportive team that is all working together. And this is a relationship, and relationships take time. So give yourself the space to learn, give yourself the space to grow, and really put your child at the forefront of what you're trying to accomplish. So, and I will end with that.
Thank you so much, Rosabelle, for those tips for all us parents and going over that. I love it. And thank you so much. I hope the presentation as well as Rosabelle's tips really help everyone that's on tonight and everyone who'll be seeing the recording at a later time. So we are going to go to Heather Plotsky to see, she is one of our CAC members and also our chair of the CAC. Do we have any questions in the chat to give to Tiffany after the presentation?
We actually had two. One of them, Jody didn't answer, but I want to make sure everybody's aware of it. The rainbow chart that Tiffany went back to several times and pointed out that had the chart of supports, and the link is in the link box in the chats. It's also on the PUSD website under student support services for special education under the alternative dispute resolution, but it's the chart showing who all the people are and that you can reach out to. So it's that rainbow chart that she kept showing on the screen. So you can grab that link out of the chat box tonight. So you can have that for yourself. Someone just asked, when will our kids get reevaluated and by whom?
Sure, I can answer that. So a triennial review happens at least every 3 years. So there are definitely times where we assess sooner than that, typically not within a year of the last assessment, because there are assessments that can't be given within a year. And so the triennial evaluation will occur after 3 years or less after the last time it took place. And by whom? Your child's IEP team. So the school psychologist at your site will likely do the cognitive assessments or intellectual development, as well as perhaps adaptive skills if they receive counseling, perhaps some social emotional testing. And then your case manager will do the academic achievement testing. Our speech therapists would do pragmatics or potentially articulation, OTs, fine motor, and any sensory pieces, and then so on. So if your students are receiving related services, all of those related service providers will be reassessing, as well as the psychologist and case manager to reestablish eligibility for special education.
How do we know who our case manager is?
Okay. So Heather Schauder, I know you're on here. If we can help this individual, we can help you find out who your case manager is. We'll message you and get that taken care of.
And typically your case manager at the elementary school would be the education specialist who works with your child, or if they're receiving only speech and language therapy, for example, their case manager would be their speech language therapist. And then at the middle and high school levels, their case manager could be one of their teachers. I know at those levels they have several teachers. So would you be able to just include your email in the chat, and then we can get back to you with more specifically about your case manager?
Can students qualify for an IEP if they only have behavioral or mental health concerns?
So there's criteria for eligibility. There are certainly students that have qualified for special education eligibility with behavioral concerns. If it's impacting their educational ability to access their program, then yes, the team would go through a variety of assessments and determine if the student needs specialized instruction and services. So yes, there's definitely been cases where those have been the initial concerns, and it leads to a comprehensive assessment, and then that team would determine eligibility.
I had a question for you, Tiffany, as related to when you were talking about signing on the attendance for, and right now we're in Zoom reality for all of our IEPs.
Yes.
And I know I've had several parents ask me the same question, where you were talking about you do not have to sign for both attendance and for the IEP. Sometimes we've been having problems passing through that if you don't click on both problems. It makes you fill out the entire document for Panda Docs.
Okay.
I know I personally have just written back to my going, hi, it won't let me out here, so I'm not signing anything.
Mhm.
But that is a problem with some of the Panda Docs is,
Okay.
I don't know.
Okay, that's really good to know. Yes, you should not have to
consent
just because a program isn't working
Yeah, so
correctly.
I don't know if everybody knows that.
Okay. Okay,
yeah.
perfect. Yeah, and if that is the case, and there's a glitch, we can definitely, I know we have some program specialists on here who are very well versed with Panda Doc, and they're obviously hearing this. So we'll definitely look into that and provide a remedy. So
Okay. Yeah. I'm not seeing any more. Does anybody else have any questions for Tiffany? Oh, someone asked if I could repeat what the issue is with Panda Doc. I didn't catch that. So if you're going to sign when they send you the Panda Doc for your IEP, and there's 2 places on it to sign. You have to sign for your attendance, and then you have to and mark the box. And then there's below, you have to sign that you're accepting what the offer of FAPE is, and then click that box. Sometimes you want to just sign the attendance part up above and date it, but you do not want to sign the actual acceptance of the offer of FAPE because you're like my child's IEP is 39 pages. So I want to send them back that, yeah, I attended today, but I want to read through the 39 pages and review it. So I wanted to sign that. There has been times where you can't pass through it and it errors in the Panda Doc. So that's the difference of I just back out and don't sign anything until I call the school and say or email them and say there's a problem. So you do not have to just click through, even though Panda Doc is telling you, yes, you have to, because it'll error. And it just gives big red arrows saying you have to do this. If that's the case, just send a message to whoever sent you the Panda Doc and say there's something wrong. We have a couple more messages. What is the procedure to request access eligibility for ABA services in the classroom? I didn't.
So
do that.
I can respond to that. ABA services are typically a clinical type of service that's provided outside of school. So I just want to clarify that. So educationally, you may be asking about additional behavior supports for your child at school. So you would want to discuss with the team about positive behavior supports and any special factors in the area of behavior that can be added to your child's IEP. Do they need a goal in the area of behavior? So again, as Tiffany shared that kind of chart of the order that we go through in the IEP, we would want to talk about behavior needs, or if there's sensory needs in that present levels page. What does that look like? Do they require a goal in those areas? And what type of supports, accommodations, services potentially are required to support those behavioral goals and those behavioral needs? So that, and then if that's not answering your full question, just let me know.
There's a follow-up to that. Can your ABA personnel people can send a report, or it's a good idea sometimes for them to send a report to you so you guys can communicate with their ABA. I know I've had to fill out the transfer of information forms, or they could be your person in your IEP meeting, correct? I know I've had that recommendation before.
So, and we are very open to, like Tiffany shared, request of release of information. You can sign a
That's
release
the
of
document,
information.
sorry.
If you have an in-home ABA provider, you can invite them as your guest to the IEP meeting. They can communicate with our staff. Again, that collaboration.
Perfect. What is the timeline for assessment? 60 days. Can you explain that part? Thanks.
Heather, do you want to?
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so when from the time that you sign that assessment plan, the district staff, the school staff has 60 days to complete that assessment. And so by that 60th day, we would be needing to meet in an IEP meeting and go over what those results are. And so as it was shared before, that's why it's really important that when parents have parts of assessments to complete, like questionnaires, rating scales, parent interview pieces, we really do depend on you returning those things in a timely manner, because it's such an important part of the assessment, and we do only have those 60 days to complete the assessment. And so we would need to meet within those 60 days, whether we have all the information returned or not, because of that timeline.
Great, thanks, she said. If you would like to request a school bus aid, does that go on the IEP?
So a request for a service, again, what we would do is start back in those beginning sections of the IEP. So in the present levels, what is that area of parent concern that's prompting that request? What is the area in the present levels that we're looking at that need? Is it behavior? Is it safety? Is there a health reason? So we talk through those present levels. Do they require a goal in that area? And then once we determine that area of need and that area of goal, what is the service that is required in the least restrictive environment for them to make progress on that goal or have that area supported? So that's why you go through that order to determine what is the exact service needed to meet the need. And it could be that they require some support on the bus, or it could be something less restrictive that better supports their independence. It could be an accommodation on the bus or a modification. And so that's why we always go back to what is the concern, the area of need, the goal area, and what is the exact thing that they require to make progress in that area. So it's definitely a service discussed through an IEP team discussion.
What happened?
Great, thank you, Heather.
Mm-hmm.
Is there any last questions for Heather and Tiffany? Looks like we're all set. Any last takers? If not, I'm going to introduce a light for each step with Jody Payne and Deborah Wilford.
Thank you, Heather. I appreciate that introduction. I'm just going to go ahead and put a caveat out for the group. Both Deb and I are having intermittent internet issues right now. So I've shared the PowerPoint or the slide deck with Tiffany. So if anything happens and I do all of a sudden leave the screen, please know that Tiffany will grab it and I'll be back on quickly. So okay, and of course the dogs start barking right now. So it's very nice to see this giant group here. What a great amount of parents we have joining us. So welcome to all of you. As Heather said, I am one of the directors of special education, and my title is that of family engagement, support, and resolution. And I work very collaboratively with Deb. And Deb, when you go to your slide, if you want to do your introduction, then that's fine. I know it's embedded there, or feel free to jump in right now as well. No, okay, I'll keep going. Okay. And I feel, Tiffany sets the tone when she says, hey, I've done this for so many years. I was like, oh my goodness, I got to start doing math again. So that's always a bad thing for me here. This year right now is my 29th year in special education. I did not start as Tiffany did as an IA. I actually started working in group homes for adults with special needs while I was in college. And then from there became a teacher. I taught for 7 years back in Ohio, moved out here to sunny San Diego, taught in the PAL program for a year. And then I became a program specialist that directed our Poway Academy of Learning, or the POW program. So as a program specialist, I served there for 15 years. And most recently in my capacity as a director, am in my 6th year. So I believe if I did all the math correctly, that means it's my 29th year. I don't know how I'm only 35. So somehow it all managed to work out that way. So anyway, I appreciate that you are all here and willing and eager participants. As previously shared, if there are questions, go ahead and put those in the chat. And we'll be able to assist in answering questions through different time periods in the presentation. So give me 1 second to share this screen. Let's make sure it happens. All right, thumbs up from the group. Can you see this slide right here? Oh, good. It's always nice when that works out too. So we're going to be talking about parent ambassadors. And when Tiffany went and shared the chart that she had that had multicolors on it, one of the tiers in that chart was that of parent liaison. And so Deb Williford, again, who will be speaking here shortly, is our special education parent liaison. There's one Deb. And so one of the initiatives that we took on in the last 2 years is that of how do we multiply and how do we have more Debs as a resource for other parents. And so that's where the notion of parent ambassadors came to be. So that said, basically looking at parent liaison. So again, that is Deb Williford, our district. And our district includes that of our fellow directors, or my fellow directors, as well as our program specialists, case managers, any of the district staff. And then what we found and what we felt is, back to Tiffany's point, a need to really expand those relationships within our parent community. And what better way to do that is through parent to parent, or parents as partners through this process. So that's where we started just, a year ago in January with 4 ambassadors. And as of last week, we were up to 32 parent ambassadors within our system. So, it's great that you're hearing the number, but I'm sure several of you are thinking, well, that's nice, Jody. It sounds like you're increasing the number of ambassadors, but what is an ambassador? So let's talk through that. Ambassadors are mentors who support and enlighten fellow parents of students with IEPs and those seeking direction as they consider special education. They bring experience and perspective as parents of children with disabilities to encourage collaboration. And of course, now I have things on my screen between parents, students, and school personnel. So that said, who are these folks? So a little bit more of the information, the 32 that we have, and I will tell you quite frankly, just going through and seeing who all's in our meeting right now, we have no less than 3 and possibly even 4 ambassadors that are here this evening. So welcome to all of you. Thanks for coming. And these individuals, what they are and what they do, they promote leadership and advocacy skills, and they support parent engagement and the academic success of PUSD students with special needs. So these are volunteers. These individuals have committed to up to 5 hours per month, where they serve as a liaison between either a specific school site, as Tiffany had mentioned earlier, or perhaps a liaison based on their areas of expertise. And those areas of expertise may be parents who have students with autism. They may be parents of students with Down syndrome. They may be parents of students with social, emotional, or mental health needs. And so they have been down this journey or this path, and they want to be a resource for you as another parent through this process. One of the other pieces here that's so important is that these parent ambassadors, they do a lot of parent-to-parent education. So again, in bringing and collaborating and sharing out their journey and their path, that's how they're sharing information with you. And again, that may be through agencies like Regional Center. It may be through agencies like EFRC, which is Exceptional Family Resource Center. And we have Maura here with us this evening, and she is one of our contacts with EFRC. So thanks for joining us, Maura. Okay, and now my screen froze. There we go. So supports that could be provided by our parent ambassadors. It may include another parent that's working to empower you as a parent, so you feel equipped to actively participate in your own child's IEP meeting. Questions come up, and I'll share a little more in a couple slides up here. Are parent ambassadors advocates? And the intent and purpose is this, that they're actually working to empower you as a parent behind the scenes so that you do feel very confident and comfortable with the IEP process. So the answer is no, they are not advocates. They definitely will help, again, empower you to become an advocate on behalf of your own child. The other piece that is a lot of the work our parent ambassadors do, they're guiding parents to resources available in the district, community, state, and at the federal level. So again, as a support network. All right, parent ambassadors. So here's what they are and what they aren't. They are parent volunteers. They do offer support, guidance, and perspective based on their personal experiences. And they are a referral network for available school and community resources. So again, just to reiterate, parent ambassadors, they're not special education advocates. They're not crises counselors, and they're not medical professionals. They would ask that you would kindly refer parents to a trained professional or an organization if necessary, and they would assist with that. Again, they're familiar with organizations within our community. All right. Again, one of the biggest pieces I would share with you about our parent ambassadors, is that they're empowering other parents to advocate on behalf of themselves and their children. And that's also a strength that our parent liaison brings to the table, Deb Williford. So Deb, with no further ado, let's have you take over, and hopefully your internet is right in there too.
Yes, can you hear me? Okay. Okay. So I'm Deb Williford, and I am the parent liaison here in the district. My background is not education. It's I started with the volunteer aspect of being in my daughter's classroom for several years, and I think they just got sick of seeing me there, so they requested that I go get a job. So I actually started as an IA in the district and was able to spend about 6 years in various classroom settings, critical skills. I was in the NSH program when we had it. I've been a one-on-one in general ed. So I've kind of seen a lot of different classrooms and different school sites as well. So if you want to go to the first slide. Oh, and I have a daughter who's 19. She has Down syndrome and is attending Abraxas and is loving it. So hold on, wait for that time, because it'll be an amazing opportunity for your children if that's their path. So basically, what is my role? Right now, I feel like I have a fun role because I'm getting to work with the parent ambassadors and developing these programs and resources for you all as parents. And so one of the first things is to facilitate the development of special education programs and resources to highlight parent connections and support. So as Jody mentioned, the Parent Ambassador Program, it was just a year ago that we were, starting this up as a concept, and it's amazing just to see how it's grown. And so we're laying foundations right now, And we're also developing resources so that we have more of a consistent message, I think. It's important that the parents are getting this information. It's all very consistent. It's transparent. So we're building a website, and on that website, you'll be able to see all the different parent ambassadors at each site. There's also a Get Connected button. So that's where you're gonna be able to fill out a survey if you have a question, concern, or a need for a resource, and who you want to get connected with, whether it be the case manager. So it's just the process, and then click the button and we'll get you connected. My role also includes enhancing family engagement, so one-on-one assistance and workshop opportunities in the future. Builds also community engagement, so ability awareness activities in the future. Some of these things are just thoughts and ideas, and I think that we'll get there because we're on a good path here to have all the parent community come together. So, but my top priorities right now is basically this laying of the foundation. So we're developing the connections with the principals and the staff at the school sites. And so the parent ambassadors know basically, if you will, their country as an ambassador. What is my school culture? What is who's who? So those are kind of some of the things that we're connecting with the principals. And the second priority right now is providing information and resources to our parent ambassadors through workshop training. We have one every month, and we have peer-to-peer collaboration through a platform called Slack. And so we're able to message each other and push out information. So it's a really nice tool for us. Okay, next slide. Is there a next slide? Okay, great. So probably want to know, how are we doing and what is our progress? So the good news is we are making progress. As Jody mentioned, there are 32-ish parent ambassadors at this time, and we're at 29 sites. So we have been meeting with principals, and 11 meetings at the elementary school have happened, 4 at the middle school. We are also connecting that next step for those who have made those connections with the principals. It's a variety of ways, and one of those is sped staff meetings. So some of the parent ambassadors are now able to know who's who and getting out the message of, what their mission is. We also are having classroom tours, and I think it's really great because the principals are actually on board, and they're excited, and they're coming up with things that work for their school sites. So the other thing that we're actually in the process with is building that resource library for our website. I've also already talked about the Get Connected button, but we are also building this library so we can, there's a couple of ideas. Where do you start in the process? If you're new to the IEP process, what does that look like? So we'll have some materials there for that. And what I wish I knew, like an FAQ page for, other parents and their experiences and the resources they've touched on in the community, and just socially, medically, all those different components. So the goal is to have some of these ready for the first of the year. Okay, next slide. Next slide.
Bear with me. I'm hitting every button on my screen right now to make this happen.
Okay, no worries. So I can
there we go. There we go.
Okay, so what's next? So basically the ongoing website development of our resource library. Next would be coordinating parent workshops in the new year. And also just immediately filling those last 10 school sites, I think, those PA positions. So if you are interested or know someone who would like to fill out the application, we have that on our website as well. And if on the next slide, you take a picture of the QR code, it'll take you right to our webpage, and there's a link there that there's an application you can fill out. So yes, right there, that QR code hooked up and ready to go. So anybody wants to join the party, we'd be more than happy to have you. And that's pretty much it for tonight.
All right, so we want to open the floor for questions, and I think there's a couple in the chat.
There are.
Okay.
In your library, this is a suggestion that you were talking about. Can you add resources like camps, play date, group information, community activities like friendship circles, etc.? Is that something that you are considering?
Yes, there's going to be several different subsets. So there'll be community, there'll be organizations for kids, organizations for parents. So it'll all be broken down into those different subject matters. So yes, we'll have those as well.
That's great. Thanks, Deb.
Mhm.
Okay. This one was taken care of. Just besides the QR code, in case everybody doesn't have one of those fancy scanners like some of us less technical CAC members, the website link is dropped into the chat box. Thank you, Trustee, for doing that for us, because I couldn't figure out even how to do that when I tried, because that was a request on here. I'm scrolling down, hang on, bear with me. If there is not a PA for a site, who do they contact? Would it be you to direct them, or to a different PA?
I would encourage you to reach out to Deb. I'm going to answer for her, and let's see, she may have a different answer than I. Yeah, I would encourage that, because she does also have the linkage, and she knows that perhaps your questions are more related to autism, like the example I gave earlier.
Right.
And she may know other liaison or other ambassadors that aren't assigned to the site, but rather have more of an area of expertise. So go ahead, Deb, chime in there too.
Yeah, no, exactly. And it is on the website, we're also organizing our parent ambassadors as, are they more experienced in a particular disability, their experiences with organizations. So yes, just because we have a PA at one site doesn't mean that we aren't all a network of parents kind of, working with one another on just to get the right answers for you.
So Crystal Marshall was asking, how does she find the PA for her particular site?
So if you go to our website, there's a quick reference sheet it's spelled out by elementary, middle school, or high school. And then it's listed alphabetically, I believe, by the elementary or middle school or high school. And you can just, check out to see if you do have a parent ambassador. If you do not, you can still fill out that Get Connected sheet or button. Just hit it and fill it out, and we can connect you with someone.
Fabulous. I know some of the questions that I've been asked about the PAs are, can they go into IA or IEP meetings? And can you as well go into, Deborah, IEP meetings with people if needed, if they request it?
Yeah, good question. You want to go ahead?
No, go ahead, Jody.
Okay, all right. So the intent behind parent ambassadors is that we're empowering other parents to be able to serve as their own representatives in the IEP meeting. So the ask that you have there. Could we have a parent ambassador participate in an IEP meeting? Typically, that would not be the case. Deb has participated in meetings before, and Deb certainly could do that as well. With this program, just, you know, really getting up and running, to be honest, throughout the group of ambassadors we have, there's different levels of comfortability. And in our most recent meeting, it was expressed that we'd like to help to really empower and build people up behind the scenes so they feel more comfortable going into their own meeting.
And that was what I thought.
Deb, do you want to add anything to that?
No, you did
I
great.
believe someone's asking, can you show the website? I believe that's what they're showing you right now is where the PA website.
Yeah. Can you see
Yeah.
the screen here? Okay, so this is our PUSD Parent Ambassador website, and Deb referenced that Get Connected button a couple times throughout the presentation. That's what she's speaking of right here. And when you go to this, it's going to take you through a query, so we know who you're wanting to speak with. And so if you're not sure if you have a parent ambassador for your site or who the person would be, you still just go ahead and fill this out. And then that would afford Deb and I the opportunity to link you with others with commonalities in the questions that you have.
And if you go to the tab to the left, Jody, you can just kind of go to the left. Yeah, go down to the school site, and you can just kind of click on the school site button. One down. Yeah, go down. And I'm sorry, it's a work in progress. Not everything is as should be, but you can see here, she clicked on to the elementary schools. And if you actually click on the parent ambassador, it will open up their bios, and you can read that about them and find out how fabulous they are. But they're all very excited to help and to be a part of your journey.
Any other questions?
Well, and where we get the link to get a hold of them at is where on the website? Because that's not connected to their bios, correct?
Correct.
Yeah.
Yes, you are correct. And so that's the Get Connected link. That's
Okay.
on the home screen of parent ambassadors. So it's through PUSD. I'll put the link here in the chat. That may be the easiest way. And so
Yeah,
I think have it. Okay, give me a second and I'll do that.
I think Tristy did, but yeah, just so.
Tristy, is that the one you did where people could actually go to the Get Connected button?
Yes, correct.
Perfect, then it's already there. Okay, excellent.
Thank you, Tristy.
Fabulous. Any more questions for our parent liaison or Jody Payne? I'm gonna turn it back over to Heather Marshall then, our host tonight.
All right, thank you, Heather Potsky. So great presentations. Thank you so much, Jody Payne and Deborah Williford. I hope that answered a lot of the ambassador questions that so many of us had, and definitely gave us a lot of education on who the parent ambassadors are, what they do, and just your future goals that you have in store for them, as well as whether or not, you know, they can go to the IEP meetings, because that was definitely a huge question that everyone was wondering about. So I love it. I love what you guys are doing. I know myself, as well as the CAC, definitely appreciates everything you're doing, and all the parent volunteers that are at each school site. So thank you so much. And Tiffany, thank you for all of your great information about all the IEPs and all the pre-asked questions that were asked, really answering a lot of those questions I think parents have going into meetings before, during, and after. So thank you so much for that. I just want to extend my gratitude to my subcommittee team as well, and for the volunteers tonight, like David Choi, for helping with all the technical Zoom things that I myself am just not great at. So thank you so much for all your help. And other than that, I hope everyone has a great evening and a good night. And thank you so much for joining us tonight.